Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Whitney Ward. Tonight we are taking you straight to the story of a brutal attack on the Centennial Trail Wednesday morning. Tonight, what the victim has to say about that ordeal. Just hours ago, the man who was arrested in connection to that attack appeared in court. Police say 25-year-old Michael Trout attacked a woman who was running on the trail near Kendall Yards last week. At this point, investigators not sure yet of the motive. KREM 2 did receive documents that detail that attack in the victim's own words, and Mark Hanrahan sat down with those documents today. He joins us now with what we've learned. Mark?
Whitney, good afternoon. The attack outlined in these court documents, as you referenced, and the details are pretty terrifying. The victim, a young woman just out for a morning walk on a popular trail, told police she thought she was going to die as the attacker threw her on the ground and started strangling her. That suspect, as you mentioned, identified as Michael Trout, faced a judge for the first time today, where he was arraigned on the charge of second-degree assault. At around 6 o'clock last Wednesday morning, the victim told investigators she saw Trout riding a bike toward her, and then he attacked her. She told officers he, quote, ran up behind her, wrapping his arms around hers. They fell to the ground, and the man got on top of her and was trying to get his hands around her neck. He, in fact, covered her mouth with his hands, preventing her from yelling for help, she said. He then, according to court documents, got both of his hands around her neck and started strangling her. But the victim fought back, pulling his hair, even grabbing his jaw and trying to push him away. Before she was able to twist, she said, she got on the attacker, then pushed him away and was able to escape. The victim later told officers she thought she was going to die, and as she was being attacked, she struggled to breathe to the point that her vision got blurry.
Wow, Mark, obviously this is a crime that has shocked Spokane with the level of violence that seems to be at random. A lot of people wondering how the victim is recovering. Have we heard from her at all?
Yeah, we actually talked to the victim today. She told us she's not ready to talk on camera yet, but she did give us permission to use this statement that she put out on Instagram, and it reads in part, quote, I just want to say a mass thank you for all the love and support I've gotten these last few days. I am overwhelmed with how nice and encouraging everyone has been. Even people not reaching out to me directly, but through my family and friends, just thank you. I'm okay, and now just getting back to some normalcy. Then she continued, on another note, you literally have no idea what people are capable of. Even with people that you see often or just in passing, please be aware of your surroundings. I was and still ended up in this situation. We'll have more on how the victim helped police positively identify the suspect, plus more from those court documents coming up on KREM 2 News at 5 tonight. In the meantime, if you want to read those court documents for yourself, just head to our website, krem.com. Whitney?
All right, Mark, thank you very much. Also tonight, the search for suspects continues after 4 people were shot at Franklin Park in North Spokane over the weekend. 1 person was killed, 3 others were shot. It was early Saturday morning. Tonight, no arrests have been made. That was actually the second shooting at a Spokane park now in less than a week, but police do not believe the shootings are related. Officers and even the Spokane mayor, Nadine Woodward, are now urging anyone who saw something to please step forward.
Of the community is that they speak up if they saw something, that they contact the Spokane Police Department, because it's the witnesses in these types of situations that solve crimes.
And coming up tonight at 6, KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk sat down with the mayor to talk about the escalating violence in the city and what's going to have to happen, she says, to make Spokane safer. That's coming up tonight on KREM 2 News at 6. In the meantime, a jury is deliberating right now whether to convict a former Spokane police officer of rape. Nathan Nash is facing multiple rape charges from multiple women. KREM 2's Janelle Finch was in court today for closing arguments. Janelle?
After 7 days of trial, hearing from Spokane law enforcement, medical teams, the 2 alleged victims, Nash's wife, and Nash himself, the jury is now in deliberations. Based on testimonies and evidence provided, a jury of 4 women and 8 men will now determine if Nash is guilty or not guilty of rape and unlawful imprisonment charges. But before they left to deliberate, the state and the defense had one final chance to plead their case.
I believe the only verdict that is supported by the evidence in the law is not guilty on all the counts, and I'd ask you to find so.
Now is the time to apply the facts of this case to the law and find the defendant, Nathan Nash, guilty.
It's been nearly 3 full years since the alleged incidents that brought Nathan Nash to this Spokane County courtroom. Back in 2019, 2 women on 2 separate occasions claimed Nash raped them while he was on duty. Court documents show on both instances, Nash was a responding officer on an initial 911 call. Then at a later date, the women claim Nash followed up and changed their perception of those in uniform as he violated their space and bodies. Monday, the state began with its closing arguments. The state attorney repeated a theme set in opening arguments, that police officers are meant to protect and serve, which Nash failed to do.
Nathan Nash chose not to protect and serve. He exploited his position as a police officer to commit the rapes of these two women.
The two alleged victims testified while on the stand. Both of the women claimed they trusted Nash, and he abused that trust. The defense has stood on lack of evidence and questioned the credibility of the alleged victims since the start of the trial.
Mr. Nash, just like everybody in this courtroom, is presumed innocent when the state makes an accusation against him. The presumption continues throughout the entire trial unless, and only then, during your deliberations you find it has been overcome by the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. And importantly, a reasonable doubt is one for which a reason exists and may arise from the evidence or lack of evidence. And in here, I suggest you have both.
But in the state's closing rebuttal, the attorney asked the jury to consider Nash's credibility in this trial.
Mr. Nash is presumed innocent, but he is not presumed credible. You are the judges of his credibility. So you can consider the personal interest that Mr. Nash has in the outcome of the case.
What evidence the jury chooses to believe is up to them. By the end of deliberations, either two victims will receive justice or a former Spokane police officer will be freed of some or all charges. Now the decision is in the hands of the jury. If convicted, Nash could receive up to life in prison. Once a verdict is reached, we will update you with that information. Reporting live from the Spokane County Courthouse, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
All right, Janelle, thank you very much. And now to our ongoing wildfire coverage. Two fires are still burning near Spokane today. The Palisades Park brush fire is burning west of town, west of downtown. And the Deep Creek fire started yesterday, last night actually, burning in Airway Heights near US 2. Now, according to DNR, that fire has burned about 110 acres. It is now 90% contained. We also know two structures have been lost. All of the evacuation orders, though, have been lifted. The fire burned near Highway 2 in Airway Heights, just west of Fairchild Air Force Base. We still don't know exactly what caused that fire. Today, there are about 50 firefighters, though, still working to put out hot spots. In the meantime, KREM 2 spoke with crews on the Palisades Park fire earlier today. They say containment is now up to 50%, which is double of what it was just yesterday. More than 30 firefighters are still on scene there. Spokane County Emergency Management says the plan is to keep the evacuations that are in place now, keep those in place at least through today. On that note, we want to turn to our meteorologist, Jeremy Legoo, joining us now in the Outdoor Weather Center. Sounds like more heat is on the way. So, of course, Jeremy, the hot, dry conditions still a problem out there.
Yeah, and it's only going to get hotter and drier from here. I just looked. No real chance of rain in at least the next 10 days. And when it comes to the chance of rain, well, it's Wednesday and it's some isolated storms, but until then, it's going to be hot yet again. 86 degrees right now here in Spokane and not too far from it over in Coeur d'Alene. Because of that, well, it's only going to get hotter, and that means more heat advisories. On Wednesday, we're looking at highs from 97 to 103 degrees. That means Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, the Palouse, out through central Washington, and even the west side back under heat advisories because of a ridge of high pressure that builds in and really starts ramping up the heat over the course of the next few days. So tomorrow, 94. Wednesday, 98 degrees, and on Thursday, 95, sunny and hot. We do have that chance of isolated storms Wednesday, but buckle up. It looks like the heat is on. This is for the end of August. We're likely going to close out August as the warmest we have ever seen here in Spokane.
Wow. All right, Jeremy, thank you very much. In other news tonight, it was earlier this afternoon, the final 3 members of a white nationalist group appeared in Kootenai County Court for arraignment. This comes more than 2 months after 31 members of the Patriot Front were found in the back of a U-Haul and arrested for conspiracy to riot at a Coeur d'Alene Pride event. So far, all of those men have pleaded not guilty. The first 2 trials in this case are expected to begin on September 19th. And among those in court today was founder and leader of the Patriot Front, Thomas Rousseau. He's from Texas, and according to the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League, he is a known white supremacist. So we dug a little deeper today. Here's what we found. Two of the nation's top anti-discrimination and racial justice organizations say Thomas Rousseau grew up outside of Dallas, Texas, and began showing signs of white nationalist beliefs as a young teenager. In fact, this article in the Texas Observer newspaper says the FBI has been monitoring Rousseau since he was still a student in high school, where he often wrote opinion pieces in support of conservative topics. But it was shortly after he graduated that Rousseau emerged as a leader inside another white nationalist organization, Vanguard America. That hate group came into the national spotlight in 2017 after tragedy at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. One woman was killed after a man drove his car into a crowd of counter-protesters. And in the aftermath of Charlottesville, the Southern Poverty Law Center says Vanguard America dissolved into chaos, and Rousseau announced his new organization, Patriot Front. Since then, Patriot Front members have protested outside of numerous events, including anti-abortion rallies, Jewish synagogues, Black Lives Matter protests, and LGBTQ pride events. Members often chant the slogan "Blood and Soil," which the Anti-Defamation League says originated in Nazi Germany, equating white European identity with the right to inherit American soil. Since its creation in 2017, Patriot Front activity has now expanded into dozens of states. And you can read our continuing coverage on this case here out of Coeur d'Alene by just going to our website, KREM.com.